It is. All right. Good morning, everybody. As always, I'm Ginny Davis, and I'm the principal. Welcome to Zoom with the Principal. Our topic this morning is we are going to be talking about the Wellness Center, which we are very excited is officially opening this week. This is something new in Eastside that every campus has a wellness, or are we calling it the Calming Center or the Wellness Center? Both.
I think Wellness Center.
Okay. So this is something new to our district. I don't think the concepts are new to our district, but having this space for students is. And so we have both of our social workers here today, Ms. Gunter and Ms. Marshall, to talk about what we're offering. And so I'm going to turn this over to them.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Marshall. I am the newer social worker. And I'll let Ms. Gunter introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Mrs. Gunter. I've been here for 6 years now, and I'm super excited to have some young energy that understands technology here. So very
excited. Are we able to share?
I think so.
Okay, perfect.
I can't find it, Kayla.
Okay, I will share. One moment. Oops. Not that young. I'm not that tech savvy. So we just wanted to start and just introduce everyone to what our mental health and wellness center is going to be here at the school. Our little introductions are, Kayla Marshall and Miss Gunter. We split the alphabet for most of the students. Mrs. Gunter takes the first half of the alphabet and I take the second half. Here are our emails. We'll also share them at the end, just in case you have any follow-up questions or how to get in contact with us. This would be the main way. We do have office phones, but email is probably the most desirable. At least for me, I'm assuming for you as well.
Definitely.
Okay.
I kind of want to premise it by saying that, like, historically, we've always seen students one-on-one who are like high risk, right? So a lot of times when we talk about like wellness and mental health stuff, a lot of people check out because they like their kids are okay and they're not getting services and they don't need services. But what's different about the Wellness Center is that it is for all students, not just students who have like significant impairments, but students who are just living life and experiencing the stress of being a teenager. And Ms. Marshall and I were talking yesterday about, even being an adult and going to work, or if you work at home, days are different. Some days are easier than others. I was giving her the example of like, some days everything just goes smoothly. I packed my lunch the night before, the kids are ready to go. I jump in the car, I listen to my music, I get my coffee, I get to work, and I'm ready to go. Well, another day I might have forgotten to put gas. My kids are not waking up on time. I get a phone call and get some bad news, like all these bad things start happening. And then by the time I get to work, I'm not necessarily in the headspace to be at work. I need like a transition period to be okay. And so I want to normalize that with all of us, whether we're teenagers or younger kids or adults, is that everybody has a bad day, right? Unfortunately. And the way that school has really been set up is for students who aren't having a bad day. But then what we found over the years is just so many kiddos are having a bad day, and we don't know the full effects of the pandemic yet. We're still in it. We're still going through it. One thing that we can speak to is, how much more activity the social workers have had this year. Right now we have 120 referrals, which is a little bit more than what I typically have by Christmas time. And that's a lot. And a referral means that somebody took the time or effort to reach out to a social worker and is asking for help for something, whether it's anxiety or depression or stress or anything like that. And so just knowing right off the bat that we have 120 of those is significant. So I'm going to hand it over to Kayla, but I just wanted to start with that of like, it is normal to not be okay, but I do want to acknowledge that coming back to school has been a challenge in a lot of ways for us and for our students. So sorry, go ahead.
No, that's perfect. And that's a perfect introduction because like you said, we don't know the full impact of the pandemic. And at least what I've noticed, what we've been noticing with students is I don't think any of them anticipated having things come up for them that have come up for a majority of people, even just interacting in different social groups. We haven't really had to do that for a year plus. So I think people who used to be social or didn't used to have more anxious feelings around school and just kind of the more control that is being in a school environment, you know, like you can't just go to the bathroom or step away if you need to, right? You have to like raise your hand and ask for the bathroom pass in front of everybody. So, you know, there's just more things to consider coming back to school that not everybody was prepared for. And there's no really good way to prepare for it than jumping into it. So yes, we've just noticed an increase in just the amount of support that's needed on campus from everybody, people who maybe haven't had to deal with these things before, maybe didn't anticipate it, students and teachers alike.
Yeah, I would love for anybody to throw in the chat anything that maybe they've noticed this year that's different with your student, maybe some challenge that's arose, or maybe they're doing perfectly well, like returning to campus. When you're thinking about somebody's like well-being, their social, emotional well-being, what have you noticed? I don't know, Jenny, if it's been anything different for you as a principal. I've noticed a lot more conflict in relationships. I've noticed, you know, just this increased like hypersensitivity to stimuli, meaning like it's overwhelming to be in a hallway full of people, right? And some students are very cautious about COVID, and it's very intimidating to be in a smaller space. So I've noticed that's coming up a lot. I've noticed just a lack of motivation, a lack of energy. Maybe sleep schedules are still not on point. I had a lot of vampires last year who slept all day long and were up all night. And I know that some of them are trying to recover from that and get this normal schedule back. But, you know, has anybody noticed anything or any issues that have popped up for yourself, for your students? These are just kind of the things that we've seen. And we could probably go on for days about the things that we've already seen. But just from a parent perspective, you know, I'm a parent to a freshman here, and he's exhausted. He's playing football. He wasn't used to being as active as he is. His personality even seems different. He's not engaging the same way because he's just burned out. And so that's something as a parent that I've seen since we've come back. I don't know about you, JD. Have you noticed anything with your kiddos?
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely being tired. You know, well, my daughter now is an adult, so she's starting college and she's working full time, and so she's exhausted. But my son going back to school, it's actually been an easier transition than I had interpreted.
As a state. Oh, sorry, you were frozen.
Oh, weird. We're on the same internet. Weird. No, it's but like, yeah, like tired. I mean, just the adjustment. I feel like now that I think we're in the 8th week of school, I feel like we're now settling in. But that first couple of weeks, I can tell you that for myself personally, that first day of school, and I think I've told the parents this, I remember turning to Andrew Campbell, our associate principal, around 4th period. And I'm like, I've never been as tired as I am right now in my entire life. Just that entire morning of directing people and telling them where to go and talking to parents and answering questions. And I had not done that, like, and had conversations with that many people in so long. I was exhausted. Like, it was just like, wow. I think at this point, and I see it around the campus too, that it's like we're all settling in. Like, I feel like I don't want to say back to normal, because you know we're still all masked up, but it definitely feels like people are, student and staff are getting used to it.
Yeah. Right. So just like the district, the state of California, we all had to respond to the pandemic and coming back to school. And what was that response? And the response was creating wellness centers in schools, making school a safe place to not be okay. Because I think coming back, we had to normalize that some of us were not going to be okay. And so the way we've responded to the need is that we added an additional social worker. That's huge. We have only had one social worker in every school, and to have two has been a huge response, a huge help. We have 2 social work interns from San Jose State who help us service the children. We have a wellness center. We even had a wellness fair right before we went on break. And it was so awesome to see so many kids out and about during our extended lunchtime, just learning about ways to take care of their body, their mind, just their overall well-being, and seeing how excited and interested they were about it. It just kind of brought to light like how important it is to take care of ourselves. You know, taking care of ourselves isn't just for students who are struggling, it's for all of us. That's how we stay doing well, right? And so I just, again, wanted to put that out there, that it is just super important for us to take care of ourselves, whether we have really high emotional needs or not. And that's just kind of where we are.
Okay. Right. There was something added to the chat, excuse me, just about time management being a huge issue. How a kid will prioritize playing video games when there's lots of homework to be done, that gets behind and then stressed. And I think the students that I talk to, video games are like a huge stress reliever. So it is like almost like a catch-22 where you're doing that to relieve stress, but then by getting behind, you're adding stress.
Right.
So it's kind of cyclical like that.
Like, where do you draw the line with video games, right? It's like you want your kiddos to decompress, but are they getting things done, and helping your kid establish that balance? I know in my house is a war. You know, I'm the bad guy who wants to take away their stress relief, but you know, if I notice that they're not getting their stuff done, I have to say something or do something. So I know that's a tough one. I don't have all the answers yet.
We figure it out together. So just some of the services that we already do have on campus. We do talk about the wellness center, but sometimes it's called the like calming center, or we have calming spaces in there. There's pictures on the slides we'll show later just about what that looks like. But it is really designed to be a space to just bring it back down. The space is going to be no cell phones. It's not going to be a place for, you know, catching up on social media or anything like that, because while it can be a stress reliever for some people, I describe it as a distraction kind of coping skill for some students, where we use it. It distracts you from your issue for whatever's going on in your life. But when you stop, it comes right back. So it doesn't really help work through the problem. It's helpful for a little bit, but it doesn't address the issue. Just went on a tiny rant about cell phones. But it's going to be a space for non-crisis intervention. When we do have crises that do arise on campus, that's what me and Mrs. Gunter are here for, along with any other staff who already have connections to the students. We try to have that conversation with teachers as well, because the teachers already have a great relationship with the students a lot of the time. So however we can have that warm handoff, warm transition when there is an issue for a student.
Yeah. And just to clarify, the Wellness Center is a space where students go during class time. And the reason I want to like really focus on that is because I hear, you know, when we hear our kiddos missing class, there's like an alarm that goes off. We're like, oh my gosh, like we don't want our kids to miss class. They need to be studying. But what we're not acknowledging sometimes is if you're not in the headspace to learn, taking a 15-minute break is something that can help you get back into that learning mindset. If you're in survival mode, if your brain's in crisis mode, you're not retaining information, your memory's not good, you're not able to focus. And so the idea of the Wellness Center is to provide a space where we're teaching students strategies and making them use and practice strategies to bring themselves down, to self-regulate, so that they're going back to the classroom. So just remember that. It's not that we're allowing kiddos to just miss class for the sake of missing class. We understand how precious classroom time is, and we want to minimize learning loss. And so we're really being intentional about what they do in the Wellness Center. They're not meeting with their friends. They're not on social media. They're not on their phone. They're not laughing and talking out loud. They're actually doing an activity to bring them back to this like balance that they need to be able to learn. You know, we'll have a lot of activities in there that we'll talk about a little bit further, but I just wanted to put that out there because I know that people get a little freaked out when we talk about kids missing class. But I think when there's purpose and intention behind it, and the kids are learning something that's going to go with them so that they're not going to have to miss class later, it's really important for us as parents to be okay with that. Go ahead, Kayla.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because once the dialogue gets going, once we start talking about it, we're already there. And then I look at the slide and we're talking about, the other services that we provide where no, it's totally okay. Because I want to just skip forward because that's what we're talking about today is the Wellness Center. But I just want for everybody else to know who doesn't know kind of what social work and mental health looks like on the campus. Right. Any crisis intervention, we're building trusting relationships with the students as well as the families, helping families if they need connections to outside any type of support. We have a really great program called Caresus that helps connect families to outside mental health support, that if a student needs more support than we're able to provide, which can be challenging having 2,000 plus students here. They're able to work with like any insurance provider that you have, or if you are not currently insured, working around that. But they're able to help connect you to different services.
Yeah. The last thing you want as a parent is a kiddo in crisis and a struggle to find a provider. And that's really what Caresus is they assist you in that process of finding somebody in your network that will work with your kid and that has available appointments. And that's something that parents and myself used to spend many hours trying to do. And so to have a service that the district's paying for that's open to all of you to use is something that we're really proud of.
Mm-hmm. So just getting back into the meat of it, right? The Wellness Center was kind of created as the response to the pandemic and the anticipation of what social, emotional, mental health needs were going to arise as we came back to campus. Because as we know, stress can be good. We all have certain amounts of stress throughout our day. There's positive types of stress. There's also negative types of stress. And sometimes that negative impact can lead to more, emotional or behavioral dysregulation with kids. Like we mentioned, it can interfere with the learning process and just negative outcomes down the line if we don't handle it correctly. And so when we're talking about adding a wellness center, we're talking about schools being a place for wellness, and to be able to learn, you have to be well, right? If you're coming in crisis, if there's issues like throughout your life, you're not going to be in the headspace to learn. So adding that 10-15 minute break that sometimes really needed will help students come back.
Yeah, I just want to read something that was in the chat. It says, the first few weeks was a big challenge. My kid is adjusting good as a freshman. And remember, our freshmen haven't been in school since 7th grade, so that's a big deal. She's engaging with different clubs and all of their activities additional to school. She does talk about the benefits from the wellness services. Being on campus is a big plus, and that's what we want. We want it to be a very safe place for students to just feel like they belong. When you've been gone for so long, it's hard to have that feeling of connection. And that's what we want to facilitate.
Right. Keep going. Yvonne, feel free to jump in whenever too. And Ms. Davis, if you have anything that comes along too. But yeah, just want to highlight what this year has really done to everybody. It's been really challenging. And I think sometimes the mentality around school can be just like, this is your job, right? This is the student's only job in their life. So we expect really great things from them, or we expect them to really focus here. And the reality is that they're still developing. They still have a brain that's, always changing, and their body's changing, and everything's changing around them. And the world is kind of changing in various different positive and negative ways. So as they're dealing with all of that, in addition to just daily life, we want to be here to support them through that.
No matter how open-minded and how much we have conversations with our kids, they always are afraid to tell us what's really going on. And so it's almost like giving your kiddo permission to not be okay is something that we really, really need to do. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to not be in the headspace to learn today. And, one of the things that always comes up for students is, You know, my parents ask me questions about my classes. My parents ask me questions about my homework. My parents ask me questions about my grades. My parents ask me questions about college. My parents don't ask me questions about how I'm doing emotionally. My parents don't ask me questions about how my friendships are. And those, you know, I'm the same way, right? It's like I jump on my kid when I see his grade pop up on my phone. But when I really reflect on it, you know, have I checked in with him on the other things that are important to him in his life? Probably not all the time. It's not intuitive for me. That's not what I do. You know, that's what my mom did. She always checked in on my grades. And what we don't realize sometimes is how much those other things impact the grades, right? So this isn't just like two separate things like school and then wellness. It's like they go hand in hand. If one's not well, the other one's not well. And so just remembering that, like our kids are like these holistic beings that are made up of friendships and personality and likes and wants and dreams and hopes, and, you know, then they're academics. And so we really have to take the time out to acknowledge every part of our kid. Because I know for myself, I don't do that all the time, but I know how important it is and how I need to validate that they're stressed out. You know, we've all been through school already, so it's hard to remember and reflect on how difficult that was. There's challenges that they have that I never had. I didn't have to worry about somebody filming me and putting me on the internet. You know, I didn't have to worry about being cyberbullied. I didn't have to worry about, you know, AP classes and, you know, all these kinds of things. And so I like to reflect on the fact that it is different for them. You know, one thing that I always hear from kiddos is like, my mom keeps telling me you have one job. And it's like, yes, that is true. You do have one job, but then that invalidates the rest of their life being important. I hope that makes sense. Like all of them is important, but we tend to hyper focus on that part. And so wellness is about acknowledging that there are other parts that are important to your kiddo that might impact their day.
Thank you. This is I don't know if anyone can really see the screen. I hope so. This is just a little graph about what tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supports look like when we talk about our MTSS or the multi-tiered systems of support. So when we have a tier 1 intervention, right, that's open to everybody, that's any student can access this. This is kind of what we talk about like preventative things, right? If we have supports that's open to the whole school, for example, the Wellness Center, when the Wellness Center is open to the whole school, and we have access to like providing students for like a little bit of extra support that they need, this might be preventing them from needing really one-on-one support later on down the line, or even a group support. So I think this might be our first kind of, I'm not sure, Yvonne, maybe you could speak to this, maybe like the school's first big opportunity for like a big tier 1 support for mental health and wellness.
Yeah, really. I mean, we really only had the capacity to see the students who needed to talk one-on-one with the social worker. A lot of that can be avoided sometimes by putting in some more like proactive measures. Jenny, I don't know if you can explain a little bit about the multi-tiered systems of support. This is not just about mental health and wellness. This is like based like for the entire student population within the classroom, within outside the classroom, wellness. And it's just about like different levels of how we support our kids. So I don't know if you have like a way you can explain.
Let me try.
Okay.
Let me try. So I would say like, you know, when we're talking about the school as a whole, there's like 3 big areas that we talk about within this. Like there's the culture of the school, the climate of the school, and then the wellness. And so, you know, typically when you think of school, you primarily think of the academics, right? You know, students are in school to learn and they're going to classes, and that's our primary focus. And so types of systems of support that we focus on within the academics, you know, is having common policies about, you know, posting the work in Google Classroom. That's a perfect example of a tier 1 support that's available to everybody. And that way all of the students can see where their assignments are and know what they have to do. And then, you know, when you get into, so a tier 1 is something that is everybody. And so like having the wellness center, that's a tier 1. Things that we do for like climate, to improve climate, I put in my Pirate Notes email that we are revamping our Pirate Gold system this week, you know, where teachers can hand out the Pirate Gold cards. I have some right here. Our little Pirate Gold cards. Where's my camera? So that, you know, to reward positive behavior, kids can come to the office, get a snack, and then they get put into a drawing for a t-shirt. That's a tier 1 type support that we're doing to reward students. It's for everybody. So then when you get into your tier 2 is kind of more involved. It might be, you know, in the classroom, it might be the teacher working one-on-one with a particular student to re-explain something, you know, and to give like, okay, you know, let's come after school and you need more help on this, right? That's more tier 2. Okay. That's not available to everybody, but it's, you know, still kind of available to most students. And when I say it's not available to everybody, it meaning like not everybody needs that. And then when you get into tier 3, that might be like more extensive tutoring. That might be, you know, we need to make a 504 plan for this student. We need to like kind of like really like dig in, like this student needs more and more supports. Same thing with the mental health. Like, you know, we have the Wellness Center available to all students. Some students might need more. They might need some more one-on-one, and then they might need like really like more like deeper like intervention.
Like a tier 1 would be the Wellness Center. A tier 2 would be a group for anxiety support. We have a big group of students who have a lot of anxiety, and we do a group for them. And then tier 3 would be a one-on-one appointment with a social worker. So it's just those different levels, different needs. Everybody has access to them, but not everybody needs it.
Yeah. So I think like the real like focus with this and this concept with schools, and this is not just unique to Piedmont Hills. It's something that's being really pushed in Eastside, but it's actually a national push too. Like if those of you that are in education, you're like probably like, yeah, we know all about this. But what it, you know, talks about is, what do we offer all students, knowing that all students need some sort of support? Like we are developing young minds. We can't just like, okay, you guys got this, you know, we're not like throwing them into the deep end of the pool and be like, all right, sink or swim. That's not what we do. And so we have to give supports in some form to all students. And so that's what we're doing. But then some students need more than just what's available to all. Hopefully I explained that.
You did good.
Thanks.
Right. This is just more on what the Wellness Center's intention is for lowering the unhealthy amount of stress that maybe students and staff are experiencing coming back to schools. I'm just going to skip through this if that's okay. I think we've covered it a good amount. And we've talked a little bit about this, but I want to go back to it. The goal of the Wellness Center.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe like when we'll kind of like walk you through what happens when a student walks into the Wellness Center. So the way we're doing it is it's very intentional. So what's going to happen is the student's going to get a pass from their teacher. The teacher has a flow chart that determines if the student needs to go to the Wellness Center, if the student is in crisis, or if the student needs to set up an appointment with a social worker. So we've taught the staff how to differentiate those things. If they determine that the student needs to go to the Wellness Center, they will write a pass. The student will come directly to the Wellness Center, which will be open all day. They will sign in with us. We will go over the rules with them. There's no cell phones. You have to select an activity. If you look at this chart here, these are things that we have available in the Wellness Center. So when a student comes in, they're going to look through here and decide, okay, which one of these activities do I need right now? What is it that I need? Do I need to color? Do I need to just distract myself? Do I need to be practicing the breathing that I learned in therapy? Do I need to just sit here quietly? Do I need a cup of hot tea? Do I need to read a book? Like, what is it that I need? We'll have worksheets, different activities for, you know, goal setting. Here's a picture. So the idea was that it's set up like kind of like a living room. We want them to feel comfortable. We want them to feel safe. We want them to feel cozy. I really wanted it to look different than their classroom looks. I want them to be able to go into a different space and feel like they're not in the classroom anymore, because sometimes the environment with all the students and all the things going on is overwhelming, it's overstimulating. So to be able to go into a quiet space, select the activity that you want to do, and then what we'll do is the people that check in the students is we'll let them know that you have 15 minutes in here. And there's going to be instances where sometimes 15 minutes isn't enough. We're going to have to go by a case-by-case basis. But what's going to happen is we're going to see the same kiddos come in, right? We're going to have kids who are really stressed out. We're starting to see them every day. And this helps us identify the need. Maybe that student needs outside therapy. Maybe that student needs a consult with a psychiatrist. Maybe that student needs a 504 plan. Maybe that student needs a phone call home. Will parents be notified if their kids go to the wellness center? One more thought. Could a student feel and be embarrassed to be seen going to the wellness center? I love both of those questions.
I know those are great questions.
Yes, parents will not necessarily be notified, but what will happen is if they leave class, there might be like if they just come straight to the wellness center, like they're in crisis, it'll say SAC on their attendance, and then you'll kind of like, I don't know if they can hover over it or it says what it is. It'll say wellness center. Mm-hmm. I will not be notifying parents if they're in the wellness center. If it becomes something where I'm seeing them frequently and I feel that there's a higher need, I will definitely be notifying parents, letting them know that I think your kiddo is struggling with an anxiety disorder. If I determine that they need an appointment with one of us, then that would be a time when we reach out to parents to let them know that they need outside services. Feeling embarrassed. So what I'm really loving with the wellness fair, we have a lot of clubs on campus that are about mental health, is that we've really started to eliminate the stigma. It's not what it used to be. Everybody knows that they need to feel well. I have a little garden here by my office, and they know it's like a place to feel, to just feel like they can relax and nobody ever questions anymore. It's not like, back in the day, it used to be like, oh, you're crazy and there's something wrong with you if you talk to the social worker. We try to establish a presence on campus where we're just people here that are here to support you. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, it has not been an issue. Back in the day, it was like really embarrassing to get a pass to go to see the social worker. And now it's just like, oh, it's those two ladies on campus that we always talk to and see walking around. It has not been an issue. We do hold that space is confidential. I expect that, and there's kind of rules listed in there too, that students are going to go share who was in there. So in my opinion, I don't know, Kayla, if you think differently, but in my opinion, I feel like it's just become a little more normal to just take care of yourself.
I think so as well. Like just having the wellness fair, I think was huge. We had probably 30 kids in that room just checking it out. And I think, just word of mouth, having kids walk by who maybe did feel odd about it, seeing that it's full of other students, that just takes a toll. Every moment that we have to make it a normal thing helps. And
Miranda's asking if a student can just walk into the center.
Right. Great question. Some students will just walk in. Maybe they ditched class or whatever, and they just walk in. Our kind of role, our new rule coming in is that they'll need a pass from their teacher, because maybe they didn't even show up to that class and they're just coming over to the wellness center. We're probably going to ask that student to go get a pass from their teacher.
If they're crying, if they're like hysterical, obviously we're not going to do that, but we're really trying to set the stage of this is what you do. But there's going to be times where, kiddos are brought to us because they're hiding in the bathroom. Kids with anxiety, the hiding spot is the bathroom. And so one of our goals for this week is to put signs in all the stalls that say, are you in here? Are you struggling? Are you having anxiety? Please just come directly to the wellness center. It's a place where you can sit that doesn't smell and it's safe, right? And there's people there that can assist you, because that's kind of been the go-to for kids. And so just letting them know, like, yeah, you can definitely come in. The teachers are instructed to not make a big deal about it if the student asks to go to the wellness center, just to write the pass out. If a teacher notices a kid's going really frequently, I ask them to consult with us to make sure that things are okay. Maybe we have a plan in place with you. Maybe we have a plan in place with their outside therapists. Whatever that is, I want there to be constant communication. I don't want this just to be like a hiding place for kids. I want it to be a place where we identify what's going on. I love these pictures. I'm so excited about this place. It's like come together so well, and it's comfortable. And when Kayla and I go in there and talk, it's hard to get out of those chairs and relax. It's really awesome.
Mm-hmm. We relax there at the end of the day. We're like writing our notes or whatever. We're in the beanbag chairs.
Yep.
There's a question about, is this information already available to the students? Are we sending it out? It's kind of been a soft opening. So word is getting out.
It is a soft opening. Our worry was our capacity, what we can hold and what that was going to look like. So we wanted to write out very specific requirements and expectations because kids love rules and expectations. They need the guidance and we want them to know what the expectation is. So I would say probably by early next week, I'll send something out to all students so that they know. And maybe I can add it to your email, Ginny.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can just let them know that it is available. They've been hearing about it. We'll probably have a couple more tabling events during lunchtime where we had, during the wellness fair, we had a table set up and then we had them do tours and just walk through. I didn't get to see how many kids were in there, but Kayla can maybe describe the scene in there during lunchtime.
It was wild in the best way, because I was at the table and then I went back into the wellness center, but at the table, you know, students maybe came up for a minute and they're not totally invested. So they'd walk away and we're like, okay, see how many we reach. And then I walk in the center and it's full and people are coloring. People are already working on the things that we have set up for them in there. It was more of a hangout spot, but that was the intention, was to get them comfortable, to get them to get to know the space. And it's not, right, it's not like a scary therapy room. And one thing I did want to mention just about confidentiality that we have with our students, I bring it up with everyone I meet one-on-one in person, is that I let them approach me when we're out and about at school. Some students are like, oh yeah, talk to me whenever. I don't mind. Some people do want to keep their privacy if they are talking to a social worker. So I have it's a small handful of students that maybe will smile or wave privately to me, but some of them are like, hey, what's up? Oh yeah, this is the social worker. I talk to her when I have an issue. So it depends, but I think there is a different culture depending on the person, right? How much privacy they do want. I don't know if you do the same, Yvonne.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm always thinking that they're embarrassed to talk to me. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we're breaking up today. And I was like, oh my God, like it's totally not a thing anymore. Like it's just, kids are, you know, obviously some are more private than others, but generally speaking, it's like something that I hear people talk about their mental health now. Like that makes me so happy. We moved here in August from Washington. Move itself was big and yes, overwhelming. Being in person with classmates is definitely a plus. Welcome to California. It's my favorite place to be. I lived in Washington for a while and I'm glad that you're here and hopefully your kiddo is feeling welcome. There's a picture of our cute little tea station. They are welcome to make some hot tea and sometimes that's just what they need. You know, right now it's been hot, but as it gets colder, it's just a time to just sit and be with yourself and smell the aromas that come out. And I love it. It's definitely a calming thing for me.
Just a little more information about, I feel like we have covered most of this. What do you think, Yvonne? Do you have anything that you wanted to? You want to go back?
Not really. I mean, really, it's just sometimes you're just overstimulated and it's just too much going on and you just need a minute. Like if I thought about if I could just take a minute every couple hours, I would probably be more productive at work. Because sometimes I'm just like overwhelmed in it. So remembering just like, what do you all do when you're stressed? Like, what would it be helpful? Like, would it be helpful for you at work if you had a wellness center? I know that's become a thing too. My husband works at Pinterest and they actually have like calming spaces. And I asked him if people, you know, in the grown-up world actually use them. And he said, yeah, people go in there and they sit on their phones and it's quiet. And you know, I think it's something that's becoming a little more normal in our culture. I love this room.
This is the best room.
It is so cool and chill, and it's inspired by my love for the Northern Lights. And so we were, you know, generously given donations. You know, we didn't have a budget for this space, and so people donated items, and it's just, like I said, it's really come together, and just seeing the kids light up when they see it makes it all worth the time and energy it took to put it together.
Right. I just, you know, it just makes me so happy when they say like, I can sit in here. Oh my God, I can bring this in here. You know, they're just enthralled with it. So it's really great.
Totally.
Again, this is just to harp on the issue that it's for everybody, right? It's anyone who's like stressed and overwhelmed. If they're feeling emotional that day, angry or frustrated, that any student, it doesn't have to be someone who has like persistent mental health things coming up, right? We all get overstimulated at times. We all have an off day. you know, that happens to everybody. And then different things come up in our lives, like experiencing grief and loss, or having to adjust to new things in our life, sometimes adjusting to medication, or having conflicts with our friends, our teachers, anything that's happening, right? This is for anyone.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of some students who've come in this week. It wasn't an official opening until really today, but some of the things I've seen, like I had a student this week who lost a family member this week, and the family thought it was really important for them to be back at school. And the student cried through some classes, was okay through some classes, but just knowing that they had the space to go somewhere and cry was so helpful for that. I only ended up seeing them one time that day, but just knowing that didn't make them feel trapped in the class with their emotions. Like, if I need to leave, it's okay. If I need to go think about this family member and cry, it's okay. Like, that's where I can do it. And it was really helpful for them just to know that there were people here, that if they needed someone to be there for them, that was okay.
Right.
I get a lot of, oh, go ahead, Kayla.
No, I had another example of another student, and I know we've really focused on like how calm and soothing it is, but we also have like a punching bag in there. We have like a little bit more active things that, you know, I'm always surprised when I see students who, like, maybe in my office, they're calm and they're, you know, maybe sitting kind of quietly, and then I'll walk them over to the wellness center just to show them what it's about. And they are just going to town on the punching bag, and they're like, this is amazing. I feel so much better. So there's just a lot of different activities for different things. You know, I don't think I would ever necessarily use a punching bag. I like to be kind of sheltered in a dark room, but everyone has something different that works for them. And we just want to cater to that.
Yes. This is kind of just a little more about like why it's important. Like, we could do a whole lesson on stress and learning, you know, survival brain versus learning brain. You know, your brain is stressed and your brain is processing as if it's in danger. When we're in danger, we're not thinking about math and science and English, right? If you're being chased by a lion, you're not really doing arithmetic in your head, right? You're trying to stay alive. And when kiddos are under like long chronic stress, their brains are not able to learn. They're just trying to save themselves from their, you know, whatever's their brain is fearful of. And so things that can happen with too much stress is, you know, trouble concentrating, feeling unmotivated, you know, the like flight, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It's like, I have so many kids that have so many activities. They are just like trying to be a leader in every club and trying to take all these AP classes, and they freeze. Like, they literally freeze. They stop performing, they shut down, they become unmotivated, they stop doing anything. And sometimes it's okay to just like give them permission to step away from all of that and to reflect on what's really important for them. I've had students this year who come in and they just are like, I'm doing this, 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 and this. And when we really break it down and we set goals for their life, they realize that's not something I'm actually really passionate about. That's just something I thought I was supposed to do. And so even giving them the space to help them process like their decisions that they made, the amount of stressors they put on themselves that are for what, you know, like for what they think they're supposed to be doing. Like, it's just a space where they have the ability to just reflect on life. People feel unmotivated with stress, sleep issues, memory issues. If you're trying to remember stuff in class and you're like, your thoughts are elsewhere, you're not going to retain that information. And so sometimes it's just better to take those 10, 15 minutes outside of class and then come back in more of a learning brain.
There's an important thing in the chat. I want to bring it up. Yeah. So we have been discussing about how to solve and help with mental health issues. I wonder how we ever think about discussing how to prevent our like mental health issues, I think, reach to that point. In other words, why nowadays do a lot of issues about mental health and behavior come up? How do we control that issue? Like, can we solve it from the root? And just sharing our thoughts on it.
Yeah. And I think that goes a lot to like that normalizing and the getting rid of the stigmas, right? Because I've talked to like, you know, my parents who are in their 70s, and we talk about mental health and things like that. And I don't think that it wasn't that they didn't feel it. There wasn't a name for it. You know, there wasn't a name for it. There wasn't the awareness of it. You know, my dad suffered from really bad anxiety, and until he was 50, didn't know what it was. And so now that I know what it is and we talk about it more, it seems to be more out in the open. Stressors are different. Life is different. Things are more fast paced. We focus more on, you know, what college we're going to go to than how we're feeling, you know? So I think preventative stuff is something that we really want to incorporate into this tier 1 level for everybody, of like, you know, like the wellness fair, like why is it important to eat well and exercise and do all these things? Well, those are all the things that we need to do to stay healthy. But sometimes, even if we do all these things, mental health issues come up. And I want everyone to remember that if your kiddo is struggling with a mental health issue, our instinct is to ask them why. And sometimes there is no why. Sometimes it's part of growing up. Sometimes it's hereditary. Sometimes it's just like prolonged stress. And when we ask our kids why, it makes them feel like something's wrong. So I encourage everyone to just keep asking questions or just listen. Sometimes they just need someone to listen. And then always ask, you know, do you need extra support? How can I support you through this? Is there anything specific I can do? Can I be a better listener? Can I do these things? Because a lot of things, like when I call parents, a lot of times I hear, I give my kid everything. They have one job. They just have to go to school. What could possibly be making this happen? And it's not personal, right? It's nothing you did. It's nothing that you're doing wrong or you parented wrong or your kid's ungrateful. Sometimes it just is. Sometimes there's no reason. There's no rhyme or reason. Your kid is just struggling with depression and anxiety. Maybe they're overwhelmed. And so just the way we talk about it, it has to be like it's just kind of a normal part of life, because it is. Kayla and I are always here to consult. You know your kiddo. We're the expert in mental health. You're the expert in your kid. I tell students all the time, you don't want to tell your mom, but your mom knows you. She knows something's off with you already. So let's eliminate the worry for her and let her know what's going on. And I always encourage kids to talk to their parents about it. If a student wants one-on-one counseling, we have to get parent consent. And so just know that if that's the need, I will be reaching out to you.
I would add to this that, you know, when we plan our topics for the Zoom with the principal, like I would say preventative care is kind of like top of mind, and what we can do at home to help our teenagers. Like when we talk about the importance of sleep, which is a topic that will be coming up pretty soon. You know, when we talk about academic peer pressure and like, you know, the topics, like we choose the topics with that kind of that frame of like, how do we prevent larger problems from growing and festering?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also want to bring, it's like, I saw a funny tweet that I wanted to bring back. I'm not that far, like, you know, even from when I was in high school, the world has changed significantly. And just the funny tweet that came up was that there was no way for my parents to like get in contact with me, like, unless we were in person, just, you know, with the access of cell phones. So being just so in contact and on demand, you're always like at someone's hand, I guess, if that makes sense. You're always at the tip of someone else's fingers nowadays. And I think when we talk about how to support them, we're always coming from our reference of what our high school experience was like or how it was for us growing up. So just acknowledging that they're growing up in a completely different world. I know I've heard a lot of students talk about just the environmental impact and what their life is going to be like in the next 20 years, or we live in one of the most expensive places in the world to live. And I know they're already feeling that stress as well. So where maybe that wasn't a thought in my mind, or, you know, my parents' mind, they weren't stressed about having to go into that world. So I just want to acknowledge that they're growing up in a different time, a different world than anyone else has. This is, again, just like bullet points about the visits will be like 10 to 15 minutes. We just really want to drive home that we don't want to keep your students out of class. And the goal is for them to be in class. And sometimes taking a step out helps them come back to class more prepared to learn.
And one of the ways we're trying to collect data to like determine if it was helpful for them. So they'll sign in, but when they check out, they're going to fill out a little scale about how they felt when they came in, how they feel now, what activity they did, what they found helpful, what could be better. And so there'll be a lot of dialogue about how we can do it better. This is just all new for us. So we don't know exactly how it's all going to play out. But we will always be evolving. If you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you hear anything from your student, please contact us. We want to keep this, moving forward, and we want it to be just a really special place that kids really value. You know, we don't have the capacity to talk to every kid one-to-one, but this is a way where we can kind of expand our width here and be a presence in more people's lives. And sometimes there's not, you don't have anything to say to them. Sometimes just being in their space and being available to them is so powerful. And that's a lot of what we do anyways. And so having a really beautiful space to do that in, I think is like a dream come true for me.
Definitely. And I think one more goal of the center is for them to become like self-sustainable with these practices, that I don't think either of us want them to think the only place I can take a break or be well is in the wellness center, because like they can take these tools outside, right? Learning how to.
One of the most amazing parts of my job is when they figure out that they have so much power within them to feel better. And so helping empower them by teaching them the skills and giving them the tools to succeed when life gets hard and things get stressful and your anxiety flares up. To me, it's like teaching someone how to fish, right? Like it's just something that they will use forever.
Right. And just this last part we've talked about throughout, like your role and how we all stay connected with teachers, parents, families, staff, just encouraging your children to use the space, and that when we talk about it, it's not a negative thing or something to not use because they need to be somewhere else, but trusting that when they're there, they're using it wisely, and that we're making sure they're using it wisely, and trusting us to keep them safe as well. Yeah. Yvonne, I don't know if you want to add it.
We are always taking donations for packaged snacks. And this is kind of an interesting one. Lunches are free at school, right? Like they are. That's just like a thing now. A lot of students don't eat at school because they're anxious. And so sometimes we'll get them in the wellness center. They're in a quiet space where they're all alone, no one's around, and they're starving. And they want a granola bar, and it helps them feel better, and their blood sugar goes back up, and it's amazing. So I like to have water available for them. I like to have snacks available for them. And so we are always open to taking donations if you just happen to be at Costco. Super helpful, and definitely well used for, I think, what is a really, really good purpose.
Right. The question, what are the hours of the Wellness Center? We're open 8 to, is it the end of school, 3:30? So
8 to 3:30 is kind of where we are right now. And it, you know, if a crisis pops up for us and we're not able, we're trying to build capacity and manning the space because we always need an adult to be in there. And so there's going to be a couple times where Kayla and I both have crisis. So we're trying to set up where there's always going to be someone there, but 3:30 would be the time.
And we're trying not to have it open for breaks or lunch because we don't want it to be outside of a wellness center, because then it turns into like a hangout spot or somewhere you just go to chill or whatever, talk to friends. But we really want to be intentional that it is designed for wellness.
You could bring the donations to the office, thank you, and we would get them over to the wellness center. There's the punching bag in there, but there's not any exercise machines. We don't have the capacity. It's not a gym.
Yes, there was another.
Oh, Virginia, that was you. Somebody came into the garden and really cleared up the space this week. I had no idea. I just thought it was like from the heavens, but I just discovered it was you and your husband. So thank you. Let me see. Any other?
You're very welcome.
So the question, how can we educate kids not to fall for TikTok wrong videos? You know what? I've been actually thinking, and Yvonne and Kayla, I will find you later today and we'll talk about that. I've actually been thinking that we've always done a Zoom on social media, but I'm thinking we might need to reframe it a little bit. So I think that something like that will be an upcoming topic. And then also to your question, they don't want to talk to parents. One topic that we will do, we just need to schedule it out, but we've done it in the past and it's always been good, is family communication and how to actually get your teen to talk to you. Because I know as I have one kid that talks to me all the time to the point where I'm like, I want some alone time. And then another one that like just grunts at me. I understand.
It's so hard not to take it personally. I tell people all the time, I have 2,000 kids at school that want to talk to me and 3 at home that don't. So I've actually resorted to texting a lot this year. Really quickly, I want to show you this other space that our parent boosters created for us a few years ago. And this is right outside of our offices. And I'm leaving this open at lunchtime for kids to just come and also have an extra space to be. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see them.
Beautiful bench and just like a really nice space to just unwind. It feels different than the classroom. And so that's it. And the kids love it. So that's always an added bonus.
Yes.
Okay, well, that is our time. And Yvonne, you thought we wouldn't fill the time.
I know.
We could talk about this for hours. Next week, the counselors are coming to see us. If you remember, about a month ago, they came and they talked about the 9th and 10th grades and issues with 9th and 10th grade with academics and like counseling and classes and all that. So next week, they are going to be focusing on the 11th and 12th grade. So if you are a parent of 11th or 12th grader, next week is going to be for you with the counselors coming. And I hope, I think maybe our brand new counselor will join us and you guys can meet her. That would be nice. Okay, everybody have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for coming. I hope that your Thursday goes great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.